Dollar dominance, aka, is the dollar dying? Has the dollar died? Over the last couple years, are we seeing dollarization become very successful? These are all great questions. And as we really think about what's been going on around the US dollar, there's been a lot of hype, there's been a lot of speculation, and there's definitely been a lot of, well, let's just call it what it is. There's been a lot of falsified documents to really kind of confirm that the dollar is dead. Now, in my opinion, one of the best things to really kind of focus on when it comes to the dollar is simply just global dominance. And Atlantic Council actually does have a website where we could see dollar dominance, and we have here that dollar dominance remains strong in reserves trade and transactions. We can see 57% share of global foreign exchange reserves, 54% of export invoicing, and then 88% share of foreign exchange transactions. So, you know, the dollar is still very well alive and well. But one thing that I will say, and I've always been very persistent on this, is that the fact that BRICS are starting to catch up in a big way, and they're actually starting to make a lot of progress towards rivaling, of course, the dollar. Now it's not as very significant, you know, that, you know, many will make it out to be, because, you know, we've definitely been reading articles where they're saying like the dollar's doomed and it's dead, and, you know, that's it, death blow, you know, just happened. I've always stated that it's a death of 1,000 cuts, right? Like, eventually over time, like, this is all going to be very painful for the dollar, but towards that time, I think that, you know, we're going to start to see a lot more innovation happen, and I think that by the time that that becomes a big concern, we'll probably have a multipolar currency-based system. And what exactly does that mean? Well, I'm going to be talking about it. Let's first start off with the BRICS digit, their overall, you know, footprint, we'll say. Right now, when we think about this, we could see that the BRICS are becoming dominant. So we have BRICS expands footprint in the global South G7 and BRICS member countries as of January 13th of this year. There's no other updated view of this. I wish that there was, but as we could see, we have blue for the G7 and then red and orange, right? Or it's like a lighter red, if you will. But the dark red is BRICS. The lighter red is new BRICS members. And as we could see, they're starting to expand rapidly. And you might not think that this is a big concern or anything to be worried about, but it's showing us the dominance in which the BRICS does have in the global world, in the global system, if you will. Now, again, what is the BRICS trying to do? Are they trying to dethrone the dollar? Are they trying to take over? Are they trying to become the dominant force? Not exactly, right? Over here, we have Justin Russia says a multipolar world order is being formed on top of that. We have over here, and I'm not going to pay for Bloomberg, so, you know, I'm not going to have the full AC access to this article, but we have Putin says BRICS summit shows a multipolar world emerging. This is a dramatic global change happening. But what's interesting about this is that, yeah, a multipolar world has been ongoing, and it's been a spotlighted topic for a while now. But over here, we go back to December of 2024, where Russian President Putin said that he wants to build a fair, just, and multipolar world. Check it out. The CTO has been promoting allied relations and camaraderie in arms. We want to reinforce this organization and enable it to play an even bigger role in ensuring stability and development across the Eurasian space. We want to build a fair, just, and multiple world order, equal and indivisible security, to respect each other's sovereign interests and each other's right to follow their own development models. The now building on top of that, we did get more recently. On March 24th, just in Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov says the creation of a more fair and balanced multipolar world is ongoing. Creation of a more fair and more balanced multipolar order. New centers of growth are arising under the collective West, such as China and others, the global South and the global East. Many countries of Eurasia, the Middle East, Latin America, almost the entire non-Western world, representing different civilizations and cultures, all of them are united by a commitment to the democratization of international national affairs. And this is mainly, these nations wanting to move back against the weaponization of the US dollar. So they want democratization, they want a fair system, and that's why they are calling for this multipolar world. Now let's actually talk about this, and let's actually, I really want to focus on this. When it comes to XRP, right? Like, where does XRP stand in a multipolar world? Well, let's first start off with this post, which was Ripple CEO sees stable coins exploding globally, calls for rapid US regulation. So Ripple CEO pushes for urgent US action of stable coins skyrocket globally, warning that without clear rules, America risks falling behind in the digital currency space. Or this is, the digital currency race itself. But one thing that I've been very vocal about is how we will not just see USD stablecoins, but we will see stablecoins around the entire world become, a reality. And it's not just about the US anymore, which is why when we hear from Scott Ben saying like, oh, well, USD stablecoins are going to save the US dollar and make the US a leader around digital assets, I don't necessarily believe. So I think that we are going to continue to see stablecoin initiatives rising around the world, and this is going to start that democratized push, if you will, into a multipolar, currency world. And that's why when we think about where, this could really kind of lead us into, we really think about what stablecoins really are doing, and stablecoins are starting to push us into a digital financial system, one that is not going to be reliant on a reserve currency anymore. The reason why I say that is because once you have instant settlement, you no longer need a reserve currency. I've stated this many times over, but also over here we have the global currencies, the potential for a multipolar currency system. This was written on June 6th of 2023. And down here we could actually see that although crypto has been touted as a possible candidate to unseat the US dollar, it won't be feasible in the immediate future. Due to technical instability and the volatility of price rate movements, a successful reserve currency will need to meet high standards of stability, usability, or adoption. And as a store of value to mitigate the effects of having a single reserve currency, dominating world trade arguments are being made for a multipolar currency system, which is one in which several currencies dominate the world economy, each holding significant sway in their respective regions, which I personally think is going to become a reality. I think that this is exactly what we are ushering into right now. You can't really see it because there is only really one major stable coin, and that's USDT, aka Tether, which is directly tied back to USD. But there is additional stable coins out there, and we know that they're going to continue to actually launch and be planned around. The EU, for an example, is planning a digital euro. The UK is planning a digital pound. I'm pretty sure that Japan is really kind of looking into Japanese yen as well. So when we think about what's going on here, I think that we're starting to move towards a completely digital system that is fully multipolar now. Where are we getting this idea from? Well, let's actually look at Mark Carney, for an example. Remember when Mark Carney, former Bank of England governor and now slated to be Prime Minister of Canada, which he has said this, in a multipolar world, you need a multipolar currency. Things don't just happen. They are made to happen big shot to subjective views for this. And yeah, I do think that a lot of things happening around XRP, specifically in the trading world, I feel like they are aligned perfectly. It's kind of crazy, but check this out. So what's the point? Give us the thumbnail. Why can't the dollar be the global currency? Okay, the dollar is the global currency. We know that the challenge is that the US share of the global economy has been reducing the dollar's share of payments, not just financial assets, but payments. A lot of payments between countries that have nothing to do with the US are in dollars. And what happens in situations like we're in today, where the US economy, to its credit, is relatively strong, it's doing better, and the Fed has been doing the right thing, which is, they've adjusted policy, they tightened policy as it was strengthening. Now they're making, the Fed doing the right thing, but they have adjusted and policy is relatively strong. That means rest of world policy is strong, is tighter than it needs to be. And that feeds back on the US economy in a way that ultimately slows this economy, and it leads to a substandard outcome. And in a world where you only have limited policy space, it's a dangerous place to be. And so the trade issues we're talking about are reinforced by the structure of the monetary system. Now, you've asked a big question, so just give me a second to. But now the issue is you don't just jump to something new overnight. And what we want in a multipolar world, I think we'd agree that we've got European engine, we've got the Chinese engine, we've got the US engine of this economy. Multipolar world, you need a multipolar currency. Things don't just happen, they are made to happen. Big shot to subjective views for this. And yeah, I do think that a lot of things happening around XRPs, specifically in the trading world, I feel like they are aligned perfectly. It's kind of crazy, but check this out. So what's the point? Give us the thumbnail. Why can't the dollar be the global currency? Okay, the dollar is the global currency. We know that the challenge is that the US share of the global economy has been reducing the dollar's share of payments, not just financial assets, but payments. A lot of payments between countries that have nothing to do with the US are in dollars. And what happens in situations like we're in today, where the US economy, to its credit, is relatively strong, it's doing better, and the Fed has been doing the right thing, which is, they've adjusted policy, they tightened policy as it was strengthening. Now they're making, the Fed doing the right thing, but they have adjusted, and policy is relatively strong. That means rest of world policy is strong, is tighter than it needs to be. And that feeds back on the US economy in a way that ultimately slows this economy, and it leads to a substandard outcome. And in a world where you only have limited policy space, it's a dangerous place to be. And the trade issues we're talking about are reinforced by the structure of the monetary system. Now, you've asked a big question, so just give me a second too. But now the issue is you don't just jump to something new overnight. And what we want in a multipolar world, I think we'd agree that we've got European engine, we've got the Chinese engine, we've got the US engine of this economy. Multipolar world, you need a multipolar currency. The question is, how do you get there? And I laid out some ideas of how you would get there. And the bottom line, Governor, is that all of the pressure on the different ingrowth around the world would not fall on the dollar exchange rate. It would be spread out. If it was a global basket of currencies, it would be spread out. It was global basket of currencies. It's better for the system as a whole. It's better. It raises that equilibrium level of interest rates, right? It gives central banks more policy, but it gives people who are watching greater returns on their savings, certainly worth. Now, also over here, we do have Mark Carney to replace Justin Trudeau as Canada's Prime Minister. But what he's saying there, where you have a basket of currencies, yeah, that could be stable coins, that could also be CBDCs. And then, of course, you need a multipolar currency. XRP could be that bridge currency. In fact, Ripple has been planning and positioning XRP as a bridge currency between central bank digital currencies forever now. So this could very well be, something that is happening. And I actually think that this is what's happening, because even with ORSD, we know that Ripple plans on launching additional stablecoins. And even they said that XRP is the perfect bridge currency between stablecoins. This is what I think is happening. Even with the BRICS, this new system is going to be heavily dominated by decentralized currencies like XRP. But even over here, we have from Anderson, the stage is set. Who's better to negotiate something like this than Carney? This got posted on April 9th, because during that time we were starting to see, a big conflict. But what he said in terms of the pause on reciprocal tariffs announced by President Trump, it's a welcome reprieve for the global economy. He says down here that as part of today's announcement, the president has signaled that the US will engage in bilateral negotiations with a number of other countries. This will likely result in a fundamental restructuring of the global trading system. This is wild to read, especially after listening to this video, but then also we have Mark Carney proposes a digital reserve currency. He said this back in 2019. So when we're thinking about what's really going on here, I feel like people are just completely unaware of the connections back to these prominent names. We are witnessing a complete change of our global financial system. I do think that we are seeing a big restructuring. I think that we are pushing towards a more, I really do think that we are in a multipolar world already around currencies. It just takes a little bit of time for everything to switch on to digital. But XRP, in my opinion, is at the top of the list as a multipolar currency and in a very efficient bridge currency as well. I do think that XRP will power this new system if we are going into a multipolar currency system. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, notifications on for more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord on description below. And with that being said, guys, Nick, thanks for watching. Peace.